All right, we have our website done, but we haven't taken care of responsiveness, making sure that it looks good on all breakpoints. And actually, we've run pretty fast on some areas and maybe left some details where we want to make sure that now at the end, we're wrapping everything up, making sure that all the interactions work. Again, everything is responsive and all the details are in. So let's do it for the home page. Actually, most of the other pages also use the home page components. And so if we make sure that the home page look great, I think we're going to have easier time on all the other pages. So let's get started. Now, the last thing, because we've added the member stack integration, we have this test mode badge here. So just while I'm making the other fixes here, I don't want to have this badge. So I'm going to go ahead and disable the member stack integration. So basically, I'm heading into the Webflow project setting in the custom code. And you can actually see here, you can see by the colors that this first line is kind of like oranges. This basically means that this is not code. This is disabled versus you see here green, blue, red, all that kind of stuff. So basically, the way that this works is if we have this beginning of the code means this is not code, this is just text, and then end this commenting section. So I'm actually just going to add like begin another commenting section and add another commenting section here. And hopefully, let's see if we cut this. Okay, now you see that the whole thing is orange, meaning it's disabled. So I'm going to save that and I'm going to go ahead and publish just so that we don't have this badge at the end. If we want to bring it up back, we can always re-enable this code here. Okay, so let's head into the designer and let's start from the top. Let's look at our navigation and see what's not working here. First of all, this bunch of text here, which was supposed to be aligned to the left, I think that because we had in the inner navigation, I wanted to align the buttons to the right, I've actually changed the justification. So I think I'm going to bring this back into justification space between. Okay, so this is aligned here. And maybe just make sure that inside of our member zone, just make sure that, yeah, the problem is here. Let's edit this main component and let's see that we're not changing this nav content. Let's actually call this inner nav buttons, and just for this combo class, change the adjustment, the justification to the right. Okay, so the inner nav is aligned to the right, and then in the home page, it's space between. That's how I like it. Now I do have here, first of all, this is not aligned in the center. Now it doesn't really matter because the positioning of the logo is actually being determined in the interaction itself, in the scroll interaction, but here as well, it's not centered. And so I want to fix that. So let's figure out what is the exact kind of like chop that I need here, or spacing. Let's see how we manage this. I think this is from the logo letter wrapper, the wrapper that holds all of the letters. And right now it is positioned. Okay, so it has a move of 30 pixels. I think that's where we put it. Let's try to put it, let's see where it's kind of like centered. I think we have another problem which we'll fix together, which is that the size is of this wrapper, because it's set to 12%, it's always changing. And because it's always changing, it's also not in the center. So let's try to tackle both these things together. Right now, it looks to me as if minus 37 pixel looks centered. We're going to try this and make sure that it's responsive in a second. Now, the problem here is that even if I'm previewing this, if the screen becomes smaller, then you see the logo becomes too small. The way I'm going to solve this is just to make sure that we have some minimum width here. So try to scale this, but when you get to a certain size of a minimum size, don't keep shrinking it. Just make sure that it's at least, I don't know, let's start with 250 pixels. Now that's way too big. Maybe 200 pixels. I think 200 pixels looks okay. Let's try to run with this. So 200 pixels. And the height, maybe we need to change the transformation again just to make sure that it's centered. So let's select the logo letter wrapper and let's maybe bring this down to minus 30. minus 36. I think this looks good. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go see the interaction, the scroll interaction. And the scroll interaction is, let's see what it is being applied to the empty section. If I remember correctly, desktop, logo hero scale desktop, and it's scaling and moving. So it's moving to minus 35, and I think we changed it to minus 36. Okay, let's save this. Let's preview this and see if it's now as we're scrolling. Feels like it should be 1 pixel up still. I know I might be like wasting too much time on a single pixel, but for me, like where this is moving into, it's kind of like critical. I don't know. Maybe like minus 37. Let's try this. Okay, so now it's scrolling into the right position, and if I'm changing the screen size, you can see that it's not changing its size because it always has this minimum of 200 pixels. Okay, so that is good. I'm happy with the logo. Let's see, as we're scrolling, things become... We have a problem here that we don't have at least a little gap between these two objects. I'm going to sort this out in a second, and you can see why it's a problem here. And then when we're getting here, okay, we're going to move into the next breakpoint. Okay, so let's see the nav content. The nav content is a flexbox that is aligning, justifying space between, but it doesn't have any gap between them. So let's add at least 10 pixels. Now it doesn't matter, but if we're going to get to smaller screen sizes, you can see that we're always going to maintain a little bit of space here, which is good. That's what I want. Okay, let's go ahead and review the other breakpoints. So this one looks good. Tablet looks good. This one doesn't look good. So the mobile landscape doesn't look good. And I think that here, maybe we can change the logo letter wrapper. And in this case, we can make it the minimum width to 150. Okay, so at this point, we can make sure that it goes to 150. And I think that we're going to have to review the interaction as well and see how that looks. That looks good, but it's not centered. So let's go ahead and actually fix, because I think we have the same interaction for, if I remember correctly, let's see where the interaction is. The interaction, we have the interaction for tablet and mobile together here. So both of these need to have the same kind of like property. If I'm looking at this, I'm looking where the movement is. Okay, so if I want to make sure that this is centered, I'm going to change this to something like this, minus 39. And I'll make sure that the size is the same. So if I've determined that the logo letter wrapper is going to be minimum of 150 on mobile, let's also change this to 150 here, so that they're always kind of like centered. Okay, so this looks good. The interaction looks good as well. Let's test out the interaction just to make sure. Testing out. Okay, interaction looks good. And for this one, for the mobile itself, I think we're going to completely remove it because there's no real space for here for this logo type. Let's see if we've managed to basically, so now the interaction here, I'm not seeing it 100% as it's scrolling. It's scrolling past by, which is good, what I wanted, but it's not changing the size. Okay, so let's figure out the animation or the interaction for the mobile. Let's go here into the mobile. This one was the mobile. And it is changing size. The nav wrapper, it's just moving. Oh, but it's not changing the size. So I do want to change the size of the logo wrapper. Logo letter wrapper, want to make sure that it's 100% size. 100%. Okay. And then we can duplicate it. The size of the wrapper can stay 100%. I don't want this to resize, just want this to be 100% and move up. and out of the screen. Okay, so that's good. So I'm happy with that. Let's preview this, moving it. Oh, I can already see the problems of the next section. Okay, so the interaction of the logo is fine. Fantastic. So it's just right now we're seeing it in the preview. If we're previewing, it doesn't look very good right now, but the interaction will take care of it. So the navigation is okay. Let's figure out the mega menu. So the mega menu opens up fine. And then when I try to resize, something weird is going on. Okay, so let's figure out why this is happening. If I go ahead and make our mega menu visible, let's turn it visible, and I try to resize, things look fine now. And let's see, it's some kind of a width problem, I think, because I guess it's trying to stay too wide. I guess let's figure out what's happening again. So here we've got the width set to 100%. In terms of the mask, let's figure out again. Let's hide this again, and let's preview this again to try to figure out what's going on. So for some reason, the whole mask is not resizing correctly. And even look, even when I'm expanding, it's not even expanding to 100%. So we can see what's going on in the background. So for some reason, the 100% value that we want for this mega menu is not working. Now, let's see the interaction, because if we're making it visible here in the designer, it looks fine. But when I'm previewing it after the interaction, so maybe something changes the width property when I'm on the click interaction. Let's see what's happening when I'm opening up. So when I'm opening up, the mega mask is sizing to 0 viewport height, so that we can resize it, and then it's sizing up to 100 viewport. So this is the animation. Oh, and you can see here the problem. So if you look at the width here in this animation, we're basically not touching it, but I think that maybe because we're not touching it, Webflow, maybe the 100% is being reset and it's not sure what to do. So let's just set it here to 100% width and animate into 100% width as well, just to make sure that it's not being overridden. Let me save this. Let's preview this right now. So now I'm clicking. Okay, now it's working well. Okay, so one thing to note when you're animating stuff, even if you're not leaving a property, if you're animating X value or the Y, Webflow will reset it because of the interaction. So that's how we caught the problem that we had there. Let me see what else is happening here. One thing that I see as I'm getting to smaller sizes of the desktop is that this background here is getting a little bit too small. And if we had this, okay, and the other thing that I want to make sure is that if the screen is too small to fit everything, I want to make sure that we can scroll here. Let's see if we've managed to... Okay, so we've got the scrolling here, but it's somehow we don't have the scrolling on desktop. Although we shouldn't have. Basically, everything should fit nicely into the desktop, so I don't think we should have this problem. Let's bring back the menu mask. Let's just make it visible here. Let's, for this menu header, for the background pattern that we have, let's see how we're sizing it. We're setting it to 40%. I'm just going to set it to 50% so that even on smaller size, it's going to be big enough. And let's see if the mask itself, no, actually, if the content itself has overflow auto. So to auto, so now if I'm previewing this, even if it's a smaller screen size, yep, we'll be able to scroll through. Okay. So those are solved. Let's actually take a look at the navigation on other breakpoints. This becomes way too big. So let's just make it smaller on tablet. Let's just make this one smaller. Let's size this to maybe 7. Close button still looks good. I guess we can change the 50% of the dots here. Now we can change it to something like 70 maybe. Actually, I'm not sure that this is a responsive value. I'm not sure this is going to change, so I'm just going to keep it. Let's make these smaller. Let's turn this into maybe 2 REM. Actually, no. I've made a mistake. Made a mistake by selecting this text block and making a change here, while actually the size is being determined from the Mega Sport type item. So here, this is what I actually need to change. Well, it's telling me it's Mega Sport type item. Yeah, it's this one. That's the one I'm selecting right now. So let's change that to maybe 2, maybe 2.5. No, 2.5. That's all right. Let's change these. See, menu sport link. So let's go ahead to the menu sport link and change that to maybe 1.7. I think that's maybe 1.5 even. I would change it. 1.5. Yep. And maybe reduce the padding just a tiny bit to something like 4 and 10. Now we can't see it because it's trying to fit everything to the screen right now, but you have to remember this might be smaller. Okay, so this looks not bad. Let's move into this one, mobile landscape. I'm definitely going to make this much smaller here. Let's do something like 4.5 for the Discover. I'm also going to make these smaller. So let's change this from 100%. Let's change it to something like 50 pixels. And the lines inside, let's select the lines inside from 100 to 50 pixels and height of 5. Okay, that looks better. I'm wondering if it's too small, but I just think that this whole header should be much smaller. So this whole header, we need to make it much smaller. I think menu heading probably has a huge line height, which is why we're taking up all of this space. But now that we've decreased the line height, it's not taking up as much space. And I think this is good. I may even make these even smaller here. So let's make these 2 and these maybe 1.5. They're already 1.5, 1.2. Yeah, something like this. And I think this will work here as well. We've got a huge line height here. So let's change the line height of the sport menu type name, 1.5. This looks better. I actually think, you know what? Looking at this, I don't think that this layout of sport type name and the sports themselves works well in this mobile portrait. So let's make sure that this is kind of like a title, a column that takes up the full width, and these are 4 underneath. Let's see what the structure is like. We've got the sport item, and in the sport item, basically we've got 2 things, the menu sport name and the list. So let's just make sure, let's see, they are currently flexbox horizontally. Let's turn them into vertically. Okay. This is better, but we've got an issue here with how things are laid out. So let's see what we've got. The water sport name, let's go ahead and center this. So currently, menu sport name is justified to the left. Let's center it. This looks good. In these sport names, so we've got these table, and inside of them we've got the collection item, and then the sport menu sport link. Let's go ahead and it has a fixed width. Let's turn this into just like 100%. Let's see what that does. Okay, 100%. That actually looks good. So that's solved it. So now this is taking as much space, and then you can see the column. Okay, this design looks much better on mobile. I definitely think this can be even smaller on mobile. So let's turn this into 3. Okay, now we've got a pretty decent design for the mega menu on all breakpoints. I'm happy with that. We can go ahead and hide this mega menu and continue to look at the hero section. One thing that I'm noting about the hero section is if I'm looking at my design, I see that we do have a little bit of padding from the left and right, like 35 pixels from the screen, kind of like when we have in the video, and here it's basically taking up the whole thing. So in the fixed hero background, we've got the background video. I think I can actually just add a little bit of padding. So padding from both sides, 35, or actually let's do something that's similar to the buttons. Just 13 pixels. Yeah, that actually looks good. Now it's aligning with the buttons, and yeah, I like that. Let's see how the next section, the scrolling section, works on mobile. So one thing that I think we saw as we preview this is that if I'm resizing this, no, resizing on desktop looks good. Okay, so let's see this on desktop, on tablet. Still looks good. Let's preview this. Okay, so that still looks good. Still looks good. And still looks good. Okay, so the next section actually looks pretty good. I'm not sure why previously, maybe on the published website. Let's publish this for a second. Maybe it was the mega menu issue that we had, but for some reason I saw it cropped and I thought we had a problem there. But right now it actually looks pretty good. So as we're scrolling into the next section, resizing, no, everything actually looks pretty good. Okay, so the scrolling section looks fine. Let's continue to the recent event section. So we know this section looks okay, or how we want it to look like on the desktop. Actually, maybe we have too many. We currently have 3.5. Is that what we wanted here? We actually wanted 2.5. So let's go ahead. We've already discussed how we're changing the code here. So let's go into the home. Let's see the code. And I remember that we're changing the not the slides preview, not from here, but actually from here, Webflow desktop. So currently it's set to 3.5, and my design shows actually 2.5. So let me change that to 2.5. Let's save that. And let's already, while we're at it, let's look at the mobile breakpoints. So for Webflow tablet, it's going to show 3.2. That doesn't actually make sense. If we're only seeing 2.5, why would we see 3.2? Maybe let's do 1.5, or maybe 2.2. Let's try this. And then on mobile, 1.5, and then mobile portrait, 1.2. That looks good. If space between is 20 on desktop, it makes sense that we keep this. And even maybe on mobile, maybe we'll change it to 15, like a little less space. So let's see that. Let's actually also look at the other elements that we have here before we're testing this on the published site. So when we're moving here, I actually think that on tablet, this space that we have here, 70 pixels, that's way too much. Let's change that to 35. And we need to remember this because throughout the website, we're using this 70 as kind of like a, container, kind of like we don't really have a container here, except from here. So this 70, let's change it to 35 and 35. This should apply because we've been reusing this kind of like a container. Text sizes, I'm not going to change. Let's see this on mobile. Perhaps we'll need to make them not as high. So we've got a height of 300 here. So maybe on mobile, let's change this to 200. I think this would look better. And I think this H2, maybe we can change it. Maybe we can change it here to, let's see, 3. That actually looks decent. Event name, let's change to 2. And also reduce the line height. The rest of the text I'm not going to change, actually. And let's see this on mobile. Okay, on mobile, this doesn't look good. Got way too much line height here. So actually line height I should probably change here as well. And then here, recent events, let's do it 2, maybe 2.2. And then this button, actually let's make this button In general, you know what? I think all of the buttons, as we're getting into mobile, I think we want to, let me start from the actual button. Just give it a little less padding so that they're not as huge. So maybe let's change it to 15 and then 15 and 20. Okay, since this is the button that all other buttons inherent from, we're good here. And for this view all, actually this ghost button in general doesn't need to have padding on the right side, so it just aligns to the end. Okay. So now let's see this. It looks better on mobile. Yep, on mobile it looks good. Are these too big? Let's actually preview this and see how this looks when the slider is being rearranged. Let's open this up. Let's close this. Okay, so now we've got 2.5. That looks good. As we're scaling, they're scaling, and then here we've got, this is the tablet breakpoints. We've got 1.5. They're a little short here on the tablet, but on mobile they look good. On mobile they actually look good. So I think maybe on the tablet we just need to make sure, if we go on the tablet or on the mobile landscape, I think here they were just 200. Was that too low or too much? Maybe we need 250 here, and then here they're going to be at 200. Sorry, 200, not 2000. Okay, I think this would make the aspect ratio look decent. All right, let's continue to the members section. So the members section looks good on desktop, and the typography is always scaling as we're changing this. This is okay. Let's check this out here. Looks good. We don't need to really change anything. Looks good. We don't really need to change anything. Okay, this is not ideal. And I think one thing that we can do is, number one, really decrease the padding here to 20. That's good. We can also maybe, one thing that we can do, I guess, I'm wondering if this is too tight, like the grid here, and maybe we need to, just because they are really tight here, maybe we just need to make it a little bit bigger. So maybe like 25% pixels. Yeah, I think this looks a little clearer, that we can see these two. They're all readable. And actually this section looks good. Okay, fantastic. We can move to the next section. So the next section is this calendar event. One thing that I know I wanted to do was to make this parallax effect that as I'm scrolling, the water kind of like comes up. So let's actually go ahead and add an interaction to this section. This is the calendar section, and I would like to add an element while scrolling in view. Currently on all breakpoints, let's create a new interaction. Let's call this calendar water parallax or something like this. And what I want here is I want to have these waters. Let's see where the water is. Calendar heading image. I guess that's that. And let's move it so that when I'm at the bottom, they're kind of like the water is also going down a little bit. Not crazy. Not too crazy. Let's do 100 pixels. Sorry, 100, not 1,000. Maybe 120. And then as I'm getting, not to the end, but to the midpoint, when this is basically in the middle of the screen, let's move this back to 0. Let's preview this. So as I'm scrolling, the water moves up. Actually, you know what? It's barely visible. Maybe we do need something like 300, so they'll be more visible. Okay, so now you can see that as I'm scrolling, the water comes up. But actually, this is in the middle of the screen, actually at 20. And the reason is that this calendar section is actually super, super long. So you know what? Actually, let's not put this interaction on the calendar section. Let's put this on the calendar heading, just on this area. So let me save this for a second, And this interaction now exists even if I delete it from the calendar section and go just to the calendar heading and add the same interaction, calendar water parallax. And now let's test this, because now it's relative only to the top part. So if we're previewing this, now you can see that it's getting, yeah, to the middle of the screen as it's in the middle of the screen. And it's kind of like moving up here, and then it stops. I can actually, you know what? I can actually take it even further and make, hey, keep going up, you know? Something like this. And then we have the effect of it's going on top of it, and as we're scrolling, it keeps going up. And this is nice. I like this. Okay. Let's preview this. Okay, so we've got this nice interaction as we're going up here. It's very nice. And how does this work on desktop? This looks good. Here I can see the problems here, and we'll tackle these problems in a second. But the calendar looks good. Actually looks good. Let's preview the interaction as we're moving up. It has a little bit too much space, I would say, at the top. This whole thing has too much space. And whoa, and here there's too much, not enough letter spacing. Okay, so let's figure out the spacing. Let's figure out the spacing here of this calendar section. Doesn't get a height, so it's probably getting, oh, it does have, padding. It does have margins on the top and bottom. So let's remove them on tablet because we don't need that much space. What else is taking up a lot of space? I guess maybe the line height. So if I reduce the line height here a little bit, no, but I don't want the lines actually to touch each other. That's not what I want. So let's see, the calendar image is not taking up space because it's absolute, and the calendar arrow is actually fixed. Okay, so I think, where are we? We're in the calendar heading. Yep. Oh, the calendar heading itself, I think, has some padding. Yeah, it has some padding. So let's reduce this padding, and now we got rid of the extra space that we had here. This looks good, but as I've mentioned, at this size, I think that the fact that we need a little bit more letter spacing. Let's give it one. Sorry, not to this, to the calendar heading. So we had -5. All right, let's actually change this to -1 maybe. Actually, -2. Okay, so this looks good. And this, maybe let's actually bring it even to 0 so it's more readable. Okay, so the header looks good. Let's tackle the actual grid here that really becomes a mess. So the first thing that I see, even before heading into the responsive breakpoints, is that these lines are breaking, and that's not what I want. And that is probably because this filterless flexbox is just trying to cram them all together horizontally. And what I want to do is, first of all, make sure that I enable the children to wrap. Okay, so in a case like this where it's just not enough space to fit them all, they're going to wrap into 2 lines, which is okay. I'm okay with that. I'm probably going to give it a little bit more space here in terms of the rows. And in case they are wrapping, actually, I would probably not justify. I would probably just set them to align to the left because I think this looks better. I would also want these 2 elements to align to the top. Yes, but I want the heading to align to this. I'm actually going to give this another combo class, and the reason is that as we're going to go through, smaller breakpoints, I want this to take up, the whole space, and I'm going to have to set some, some styling on top of this. So I'm going to call this calendar H2. Okay, now that I've got this, I can actually here give it a little bit of top padding just to make sure that they are aligned. And this is great. Even if we have space, it's great. If we don't have space, that's also great. Let's see what happens on the tablet. So on tablet, already I can see that that's not what I want. So in this case, what I will do is, because we are basically right now, the calendar filtering wrapper is trying to put them horizontally, the first thing I want to do is put them vertically, right? Let this have the whole space and this the whole space. This already looks better. We probably don't need that much spacing from the bottom. We also decided that whenever we had this 70 as a margin, we're going to turn this to 35 and 35, and maybe reduce this to 35 as well. So just the spacing, this looks better. Let's continue. Let's do the whole heading all the way down and then move to the actual list. This also looks good, I guess. I'm trying to figure out whether we need to make the text smaller. Let's make the text of the check boxes actually smaller. Do we get the size from the filter checkbox wrapper? So where's the filter checkbox wrapper? This is setting up the size. So for the checkbox themselves, let's turn this into 2. This looks better, fitting in 2 lines. Yep, I'm glad with this. I'm happy with this. Let's turn this. Okay, here we definitely need to, number one, make them smaller, but still they need to be clickable, right? They are checkboxes, so they can't be super small, maybe 1.7, but we can probably reduce a little bit of the padding. Maybe we also can, for this actual list, remove some of the space between them, and then they can fit a little bit more. So let's set it to 5 and 5. I would make them a little bit smaller, the type, just so that maybe some of these can fit as well. Let's do 1.5. Filter checkbox wrapper, 1.5. Okay, I'm glad with this. We don't need that much space between these. So let's see what is taking up the space here. Maybe we don't need the space on the top. We don't need the space at the bottom. This form block, what has the, this calendar filter list has margin. We can get rid of that. This whole thing has padding that I'm going to get rid of because we've got way too much space here for mobile. And at this point, I'm happy with it. I think that I'm wondering whether the 35 pixels from left and right is too much for mobile, but for now, let's keep it. Okay, so the calendar list is working on mobile. Let's see how this whole grid operates. So thing number one, we want to make sure that the wrapper itself that handles, let's see what handles the space here. Calendar event list. Let's turn this to 35 and 35. And the rest of the things look pretty good here. So let's move down. At this point, I think maybe this 3-column layout does not work very well. And so let's figure out how this is structured. So we've got the calendar grid item, which is basically 3 columns. I think that at this point, I want to make it just a single column. So I'm going to delete this column and delete this column and just have this column as, taking up the whole thing. Taking up the whole thing. That being said, I think I want the image div to be first. So you see the hero first, the image first, and then you get the details. So the way I can rearrange them inside of a grid is by selecting this div block and just make sure that it is first. Okay, so now it is the first item. I don't need to move anything so that, if we're going back here, it's still the third, but here it becomes the first. So we rearrange the content within a grid cell. So this actually looks pretty good. And let's see how this looks on mobile. Okay, pretty decent. So, okay, I've just discovered a problem. And I'm not sure where this problem is coming from, but we have a vertical scroll problem. So let's figure out we've got the calendar right, but let's figure out where do we have this problem coming from. So let me scroll up, 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 up. And there is something here. Perhaps this. No, the mask here is not going beyond. Let's see where the problem is coming from. Okay, so when I'm in mobile landscape, I don't have this vertical scroll. This is something that only happens here. So this is a good chance to talk about kind of like debugging these things. So the first thing I want to find out is where is this problem coming from, and I'm just going to do it by deleting sections. So I'm just going to delete the sections one by one until the problem stops, and then that'll help me figure out where the problem is. So deleting the calendar section, still have this. Okay, so here it is. I guess it's coming from the footer. Okay, it's coming from the footer, and that's the next section anyway. So good for us. We're just going to tackle the footer as the last section here down. So first of all, let's see if the footer is responsive well enough when we're on desktop. And yeah, it's pretty solid on desktop. So let's figure out the next breakpoints. So we've got this one. Well, first of all, let's start making this way smaller. And by the way, right now, this is the size is set with REMs. I wonder whether we want this to be set with viewport width so that it's fully responsive. But no, I guess we can just make this smaller, pretty much like we did with the mega menu. Okay, so let's turn this into 6. Okay, the heading looks okay. This looks okay. So I think this breakpoint looks okay. Let's see this one. Let's make the heading a little bit smaller here as well. So let's do 5. Actually, why is this says discover? This should probably say something else. It should say be epic. Let's change this. Be epic. Okay, so be epic looks good here. Be epic looks good here. Be epic looks good here. Here we have something that's breaking. So let's see what's breaking here. Let's edit this component. What is breaking here? Actually, this layout doesn't make sense here. So I think when we get to this point, let's see what we have. We have the footer links. Let's see the structure. We have footer links, which is a flexbox horizontal. Let's change this to vertical. So we've got that at the top and then the grid at the bottom. This already looks better. Let's just make sure that this menu support grid here that has menu support links. So we're using the same, the problem that we have right now is that we're using the same classes that we have in the mega menu, but we want them to act a little bit different. So we have to add a combo class, footer link, unless we're going to change the way that the mega menu look. Footer link, and I'm going to have to add this class to all of these. So you can see it already suggests this combo class to all of them. Let's just first see that by doing this, we can change this to 100%, and that solves the issue. Yeah. So this is footer link. This one should get the footer link. This one should get the footer link. Okay. And by doing that, we've changed the layout. This one looks great right now. And this one, we can make this smaller still. So let's change this into 4. This looks okay. This can be smaller, I guess. Where is this text box coming from? The size is coming from just body all pages. Okay, so let's maintain this. Let's just give it less padding here. I guess this will be better. These look okay here. And so, yeah, okay. So with that, we've also solved the horizontal scrolling problem that we had, which is fantastic. I don't have that problem anymore. And we've made the home page responsive. So I think with that, we're actually going to wrap things up because most of the other pages are variation on these same components. And that was the main challenge. And with that, we can wrap up the project.